Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars and welcome to another PlayStation review. Today's review is for F1 Manager 2022 on the PlayStation 5. Now, F1 Manager was recently released on the PlayStation Store. Now, as I mentioned on my gameplay video, I wasn't necessarily going to play this one, certainly straight away. I do like management sims of all sorts, really. I will generally give any one of them a go, but I especially like management sims that are sports related, certainly football management sims. Anything along that ilk, really, I will give it a go. So I had every intention of certainly getting around to playing this one. However, I thought I would pull the trigger and give this one a go. And what do we get from F1 Manager? Well, it's brought to us by Frontier, which, if you know Frontier, they're the ones that bring us Elite Dangerous. So this is a little bit out of their comfort zone, you would expect. But what we actually get here is quite a highly polished management sim. Now, initially when the game turns on, you get to choose any of the teams. And they're all, as far as I'm aware, certainly, I'm not a massive F1 fan, but as far as I'm aware, they're all the proper teams and all the proper drivers, and you can choose any of the teams that you want to be, and the teams will consist of 2 main drivers and a reserve driver. And once you've chosen your team, you're then given objectives by that team. For example, I think I chose Mercedes on my first playthrough, and my objective there was not to win the whole thing or the drivers' constructors championships or the main drivers championship. I think it was to come third or something like that. So depending on which team you choose, you will get different objectives. So once you get in there, you've got like a budget to work with. There's certain things you can do with that budget. Now you can upgrade your facilities however you want to kind of improve morale in certain areas. You can improve and build new facilities, that kind of stuff. But the main objective of this game is to win races, or certainly get close to the podium and get as many points as you can. So regardless of which team you start with, really, you will then head into like race weekends and things like that. And the race weekends consist of like 3 days, very realistic in a sense of you've got a 3-day weekend. You've got like, I think it's 3 practice sessions to do with your car. Then you've got 3 qualifying sessions, which determine where you will start the race, whether you be on pole position, so on and so forth. And then the race itself. Now, I chose Mercedes, and then I think in the first race, I ended up something like 6 or something on the grid. So, like I say, you do your practice sessions, and you can simulate all of this if you really want to. And it is quite realistic, I've found, because some of them I have simulated, and some of them I've kind of taken direct control of, if you like. And when I say direct control, you don't actually drive the cars, you just manage them through the sessions. And they do kind of finish in positions in tune with if you simulate it, if that makes sense. So I've got to the point now while I'm playing this game that I will generally simulate all the practice sessions, and then I will simulate 2 of the qualifiers, and then take direct control of 1 of the qualifying sessions, and then straight into the race. And then I never simulate the races, I always directly control that side of it. Now, I always thought before going into this game, how are they going to keep you interested in a race that can last, sometimes over 70 laps, between 50 and 70 laps sort of thing for a lot of these races? How are they going to keep you interested? And do you know what? They've actually managed to do it, because many of the races are very much like a chess match almost. It's very strategic stuff, and you have to balance your strategy. So before the race starts, you've got to kind of choose your strategy, what kind of tyres you're going to put on your car, because you can't fuel anymore in F1. You can't have any fuel stops. You've just got to the only pit stops you can have is to change your tyres. So you've got like 3 options to choose from: a risky option, a less risky option, and a very safe option. And it's up to you to choose which one you want. I always chose a different one for each driver. Generally, I give one of them a risky one and another one the one right in the middle sort of thing. And if it's raining on that day, you would just put wet tyres on it anyway. And then if it stopped raining, you'd have to come into the pits and change the tyres. So you've got to choose that before your race starts, what tyres you're going to put on. That's the only real race strategy in that before the race. And then once the race starts, you've got to kind of then balance what kind of drive you're going to do. And you can choose whether you're going to be like a balanced drive, an aggressive drive sort of thing. And then you've got to balance that with the fuel consumption. So if you're really pushing to try and overtake, you can click it on aggressive kind of drive, and then you click the fuel consumption to like push, so that it means you're going to use a little bit more fuel to try and get over people. And then you've got like your electrical system in the car that you've got to balance as well. So you've got to manage that as well during the race. So there will come a time where you're trying to overtake someone, so you click your aggressive driving, you push your fuel consumption, and then you click the electronic system to overtake. And that will give your driver a little bit of an edge if they're trying to overtake. But they won't overtake straight away. It might take a number of laps until they find an opportunity to overtake, which I thought was really realistic and really good. And you can kind of then watch the laps, and then you will find yourself get to a point watching the race where you're happy with your strategy, but at that point, you're not going to push, you're not going to try and overtake for a while. So then you'll kind of speed it up. You can speed it up to 16 times the speed, and it'll take then about 10 seconds or so to do a lap sort of thing. And then you'll kind of you'll do that, speed up the laps for about 10 laps, and then slow it down again and see where you are, and then make a decision. You might get close to pit stops, so you'll choose when you go into the pit stop what tyres you're going to put back on your car, and then you go back out on the track, see where you are, and then plan your next strategy. When you're happy with that strategy, speed it up again, so on and so forth. Now the first 2 races, I think, when I did this, one of my drivers didn't finish the first 2 races. One of them was because I ran out of fuel because I didn't manage the fuel properly, and another one was due to a breakdown, or I ran off the track, I can't remember. And it's small, measurable goals, you know what I mean? Actually finishing 4th or 5th is a bit of a success in a lot of these races, especially if you're not like one of the absolute top teams. So it's quite realistic in that sense. It is definitely small, measurable goals. You're not going to be winning every single race. In fact, I've not won any races yet. I think the best I've done is finish 2nd on a race so far in this. And there's 22 races. It's a realistic season. And the race days are actually really, really fun. Although you could argue they may well get entertaining. But what certainly will keep your interest up, I think, is in between the races, like I say, you can upgrade your facilities, but what you can also do is research and manufacture new parts for your car, whether it be engine parts or bodywork, to kind of improve the aerodynamics or improve the power or improve the gear ratios. And then it'll take a couple of weeks to kind of research and build those. So you'll research it, and then you've got to manufacture it, and then you can fit it to your cars, and it will make slight incremental changes to the car in a positive way. For example, one of the races that I did, I was consistently finishing 5th, 6th, 5th, and I think 4th. And then I'd made a couple of changes to the car, and then I added them. I think I made the gearbox better, and then I changed the chassis to make it more aerodynamic ever so slightly. And then the next race, I finished 2nd. But then I thought, oh, brilliant, I'm in the running now. I'm going to finish like on the podium now. And then the race after that, I think I finished 9th. So it's really quite realistic, and it's quite addictive gameplay, this. However, I would say if you're not an F1 fan, and to be fair, I'm not an F1 super fan. I used to follow it a lot when I was younger, but I don't really watch it so much now. But I do kind of keep track of it a little bit. If you're an F1 super fan, I think you're going to really enjoy this game. If you're not into F1, but you're into management sims, not so sure if you're going to like this one. I think the presentation here is really nice as well. It's got some nice immersive cutscenes. And one of the really cool things about it is when you're in the car, when you're choosing different strategy or something happens, if there's a crash or whatever, then you'll hear like this chit chat over the radio of the team talking to you. And in actual fact, 'cause I was Lewis Hamilton, it's actually Lewis Hamilton's voice firing back to the team, you know, chatting to each other, which I thought was a really nice addition. So it does feel immersive. It's got good presentation. Might be slightly overpriced. I think I paid about £43, £44 for this in the UK. I think if this had been £10 cheaper, I think it would have been more accessible, I think, to people and fans. But I suspect if you're an F1 fan, you've probably already decided if you're going to pick this one up. I'm really quite enjoying it, but I do recognise it certainly does get a little bit repetitive. Certainly after about 10 races in, you've kind of, you know, spent up your budget, you're allocated wind tunnel hours and all this kind of stuff, and your research hours, and then you've kind of got to ride the wave until the end of the season, sort of thing. But it's a fun management sim. It's something a little bit different. I am certainly enjoying my time with it, and I will be putting more effort and time into it as well. So I hope you enjoy this review, guys. I'm going to give this one, I think a 7 out of 10 is a fair review for this, because it's not accessible to everybody. And certainly it does get repetitive. So thank you very much, guys. I will be back with more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.